Hi everyone, Luke Gallant from the YT624EJ maintenance channel. So for episode 12 we're going to do something a little bit different. I know the maintenance bit's off to a bit of a slow start, but I feel compelled to do some stuff that I've had on the back burner for a bit. Alright, so like every task, where do we start? The service manual. Checking the track, section 3-19. Section 3-19 explains how to check the track and tells us that the track slack is 11 to 16 millimeters per 5 kilograms of force, or 11 pounds if you're in America. So what do? We look in our trusty drawer of special tools and we find that in here there should be a track tension measuring gauge. So here the tension gauge, where my pinky is here, there's a small O-ring. So when you depress the gauge, you'll end up with a displaced O-ring which tells you the distance. So what I'll do now is I'll apply 5 pounds of tension. So there is a spring inside here. Let me apply that 5 pounds of tension in the exact center of the track, both width and length. And let me apply that 5 kilograms, try to keep this in focus, and here we go. And that's about it, 5 kilograms. And we now have to manually measure how much deflection we have. And I'm getting about 13 millimeters. So that is right within the 11 to 16 millimeter spec, and I'm okay with that. Now when it comes to the question of, well, what if the track tension is off? How do I adjust it? Good question. It's not very hard. So at the back of the snowblower here, you see that there's this silver bolt. And then inside there's the silver kind of shaft for the guide wheels. So basically you would undo the 2 lock nuts that are in here. You would adjust the bolt, which is threaded in that shaft, and you'd be good to go. So as much as I want to perform some unnecessary maintenance on mine, I'm gonna go with the if it ain't broke, don't fix it in this scenario, and I'm not going to touch it. Alright, I hope everyone liked that advertisement as much as I did. I think it was some of the best advertisement I've ever seen. We're going to run through a few subjects here that I've been really wanting to communicate to you guys for a long time. So the first one is, why are Yamaha snowblowers not sold in the USA? I've Googled this many times. We all know that these Yamaha products are only sold in Canada and other places in the world, but not the US. What I had heard is that it was a lawsuit from some of the other snowblower manufacturers around how Yamaha rates their blowers, and that they rate their horsepower maybe at the auger versus the engine. I researched this for a long time, and I searched like lawsuits, whatever. I searched so many combinations, so much so that I finally got to the public access to court electronic record system called PACER from the US Justice Department to try and look through archives. I spent a good 2-3 hours doing that and found nothing. I found lawsuits on ATVs, on people dying from rollovers, whatever. I found everything under the sun except anything pertaining to snowblowers. So I abandoned that. If anyone has info, I'd be keen on making a little feature on it, because honestly, if these things were sold in the US, Yamaha sales would obviously be much higher, probably 10 times the amount, just by looking at the forum subscriptions and stuff.
大雪で大変だ。レッドたちがいないこんな時に。何言ってるんだ。俺たちブルーの出番だぜ。よし、行くぞ。怒涛の青、飛ばすぜ。旋回の青、軽いぞ。進撃の青、押すだぜ。静音の青、静かに。除雪は青の時代。ヤマハの青い除雪機。ただいま40周年キャンペーン実施中。
The other thing I want to show you guys is this kind of historical document that I pulled from the web archive. So web.archive.org is a really awesome place. You guys can go there and research that yourself. But from the Yamaha Japan site from 2019, I've used Google Chrome to translate the page to English. we can see the history of Yamaha snowblowers. I'm going to blast through it because it's very long listening to a guy narrating. But we see here that in '78, the first Yamaha snowblower, the YT625, came out. That was 4 years after Yamaha began importing Toro units from the US to try and build the business. And that was about a year after they developed this contraption called a YS1. Imagine the YS1, and now we're at the YS or YT660. So this thing was just a device that sprayed chemicals on the roads to melt the snow. So it's come a long way. So again, the first blower in '78, so in 2018 marked that 40-year anniversary. And from further reading the document here, the 1978 release was actually a joint venture between Yamaha and the Sasaki Corporation, whereas in 1980 Yamaha released the first one that they made on their own, the YSM 250. Which the picture is not shown in the document, but it seems like it was a bit of a smaller unit. And then it was 2 years later, the full-scale performance model, the YSM 555, was released. Whereas with Honda, it seems they first released theirs in North America in 1980. See here in '88, the Ricky came out, and then there's also another bigger unit with a diesel engine, which is kind of neat. In '91, the hydrostatic transmission was released in these snowblowers by Yamaha. And there's also seems to be this plow that they put on some of them. I also like here that they note that there's a shear bolt guard for the YT660, and I noticed the shear bolt guard but didn't think much of it, so it's nice to see them calling it out here in design. So look at this YS1. Actually, this is the YS2 being pulled by a Yamaha snowmobile, spraying who knows what. We notice here that the first ever unit in '78 had a snow removal amount of 35 tons per hour and 4.4 kilowatts of power. Whereas if we scroll through all the generations, which I'll let you guys peruse this on your own, I'll just put the link in the description. I'll check out these awesome flames or whatever. If we look at the model of yours truly here, we've got 35 tons per hour unchanged, but we're down to 3.5 kilowatts. So it's doing more with less. So really awesome document.
雪からみんなを救うのは
俺たちだ。これがヒーローの力。押して飛ばす一台二役だ。青いヒーロー。ヤマハ青の除雪機。
Finally, guys, we're going to get to how do we order parts. I think the first place to start is with the parts catalog. You can Google Yamaha parts catalog YT624, but Yamaha, for every model they have, always makes a nice catalog like this. You can print it out, keep it in your garage, whatever. Using a parts catalog eliminates confusion and wasted time with dealerships. If you call a dealership and you ask them, oh, can I get the spring on the handle thing that comes off the governor? Okay, sure. You want this spring? Well, don't worry, they'll order you this one for sure. There's always going to be confusion, and you're going to spend a lot of time on the phone, and you're probably going to get the wrong part, and that you're probably going to have to pay for and keep, by the way. So use these catalogs, these numbers here under part number, obviously. The first 3 digits of the Yamaha part number always links to the series that it was made for. So here we have the 7TO. And if you look up here, you've got the 7TO. So 7TO tells you that the part was new for this generation of machine, whereas the 7CN probably came from a unit that was a couple of years before. So anyway, at the back here, there's a numerical index of what part goes to what page. And then, you know, here if you want to order an emblem for your machine, you can find them here. So very detailed. Now you can see how the dealerships or the online parts people will translate that to online fiches. So save to the cylinder head here at this Japanese page, you can click the parts and then it'll highlight them below, and then you can order them with the Yamaha part number. Notice here that in Japan we talk it's the YT660, whereas in Canada here we've got the YT624. And you know, on Bike Bandit, you know, a lot of these places will use the same fiche, so we don't need to get into analysis paralysis with these. Here you've got the YS624T. So you always want to double check that the fiche you're looking at is actually your machine, so you don't order the wrong thing. But this catalog here, so what I do is I call any Yamaha dealership whether they sell snowblowers or not. Just tell them, I want part number 90465-08125. It'll come, don't worry. So anyway, hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Again, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and yeah, more to come.